Welcome everybody to another Kendo Tip stream. My name is Jose. I'm a Yondagin Kendo, and today we're just gonna have fun here talking about Kendo and just watching some videos that I prepared for you guys. So please let me know you're here. Say hello so I can say hello back to you. And I know who's here in the chat. I want to see if I have some new people up in the chat, and I want to know how you're doing. How was your week? Did you get to do Kendo this week? Did you practice on your own? What do you do? What do you do? Like, how did you improve your Kendo this past week? Um, Luckily for me, I was able to have two practices this week. Actually, I I started practicing on Wednesdays, yeah, Wednesday and Saturdays. I'm practicing Wednesday and Saturdays, and right now it's very basics. No bogu, so footwork. Suburi and just basics. Overall, like polishing, swings, movement, ki, and all that stuff. Hey Melvin, how you doing? How was your week? Did you get to practice? Did you do Suburi this week? Did you practice at the dojo? What did you do this week? Kendo related, right? Um, if we have any news from anything going on in the current world, please let me know. Share them up. I wanna know if there's anything that I haven't heard about. I want to know if there's any word on the meeting that's supposed to happen for the World Championship, like to see when is it gonna be and all this stuff. So yeah. Um, Melvin, you're saying thank you for the review on Ega Sensei's video. I'm guessing you meant to say Ega, and yeah, there you go. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. Right now, my plan, because I think it was like two streams ago where I played different videos of different kenshis, and I think in the same stream I did Ega and Uchimura, and because of their height, I kind of now want to do Uchimura after reviewing Ega, just because I think they have such different approaches to kind of similar body types. I'm not gonna say they're like same body type, but they're very similar when it comes to height. So, I'm glad to hear it was awesome. I'm trying to break down as much as I can on those things and see if we can take little things to make it into our kendo. I think that's the plan. That's the idea. So if you guys have any suggestions or have any future videos you want me to do, somebody suggested in this last video to do Kunitomo, and I love Kunitomo, so I'm most likely gonna do a video in Kunitomo. And for him, I think I want to break down the Kamai, right? His approach in Kamai, because I think that's the first thing that kind of caught my eye the first time I saw him. And I think the first time I saw him was like 4 or 5 years ago, and he, maybe even more, I think he made it to second place. That was the first time he made it to second place in the All Japan. So yeah, that caught my eye, and I was really rooting for him because I think most of the kamais that you see, it tends to be a little bit wider, and I don't know. I think his kamai is beautiful, if for lack of a better word, right? So, and also it's effective, as you have seen him in matches and so on. Um, but yeah, if anybody has any suggestion of the next one that you want me to do a review, that would be awesome. Melvin, you said that you're still practicing online. Yeah, I'm still doing practices online with the Venezuelan Federation. This week I skipped it because I had some stuff that I had to do. But I'm actually very happy, that we found like a new way to keep improving our kendo outside of the dojo, right? So I guess it will be like the third dojo, I guess, or fourth dojo. Anyways, but yeah, like I'm happy to see how many other senses, like even from Japan, right? Like they're doing seminars and so on, because I think that's gonna open up the doors for so much more learning, even though it may not be like face to face. I think it's definitely gonna help out, at least the understanding of uh, executing different things, and I think it's a good initiative, right? Um, Thankfully we can do it with all the online resources that we have nowadays, so that's actually pretty awesome. um, I'm thinking I want to share a little bit about what I've been thinking about doing a video coming up soon. It has to do with the swing of the sword. And I noticed some people that I've seen doing swings, now that I'm starting to practicing, I'm getting to see again, like different levels of kendo. And some of the videos that I actually gotten from people that sometimes it's hard to understand the use of the right hand when it comes to lifting and bringing the sword down. Because I feel like a lot of people kind of like have the focus on not pushing with the right hand, but I think that also is the work of bringing it up. So let me just show a little bit of what I'm trying to say. So one thing that I've seen lately, or that I've been paying more attention, is like a lot of times like people like this hand becomes kind of too robotic when it goes up, and I think it should be a little bit more fluid when it comes to the swing up, right? Not necessarily bending or bending here, but definitely not like going like this. I think that there has to be a little bit of a flexibility to throw the sword. So I'm analyzing this stuff. I'm actually working on that on my head and like watching different videos and asking different people. So if that's something that you either struggle with and you know about, or like you have any suggestions, I would like you to share your questions or opinions on that. Because I think it's kind of common for people kind of to tense up too much and not really be fluid. And I think when you're fluid, it kind of helps not only with the intensity of the swing, but also with the ability to do continuous waza. So I don't know, that's something that's going on my head lately. I think we have a few people up in the chat. Again, if you're here, please let me know, say hello. I want to know who's here. Yes, I can, we can have a little bit of a conversation. That'll be awesome. But I'm kind of waiting for maybe a few people to just be on. I think we probably have enough. I have 2 videos specifically prepared for today. One, it's the basics video that I don't know if you've seen a while back that came out from Takenouchi. And he kind of demonstrates a lot of different aspects of Kihon and footwork and all that stuff that I kind of want to just overview with you guys today. And then I also have a police tournament Ippon compilation, just because, we can't skip the Ippons, right? We have to be looking at some Ippons in this stream, right? So yeah, that's what I have planned for you guys today. I can start setting that up real quick. So we're gonna start with the Takenouchi video, which let me get up and running. Give me 1 second. Okay. So, the video is like super small. Hold on. Hey Theo, how are you doing? How was your week? How's been your Kendo progress for this week? Let me know. Okay, so again, I can put my headphones so I can see some of the stuff. I can hear some of the stuff that you guys are hearing. So give me 1 second. So again, this is a review of basics. And demonstration from Takenouchi. Okay, so here they're demonstrating Kamae. He's demonstrating Kamae, sorry. Let me fast forward a little bit. We're not going to watch the whole thing, obviously. Now, this is something that I kind of wanted to share based on what I just said about the whole thing with the swing. But he's going to do it very slow, right? So let's break this down a little bit. I think, by the way, this is something that we should do every practice, every day. Just do the quads very slow. Learn the motion. So look at the right arm. Right, you see it has a little bit of flexibility, and at the end he extends it and then does a little bit of like a lever action. Let me just like a lever action with the left hand as he extends it to get that impact. And let me go a little bit
力みが取れた
Look at the
構えに
left
近
arm.
づくことができます。これを行うと自然と肩の力が抜け、背筋が伸びるため肩甲骨の運動が意識できます。猫背のような姿勢や肩に力が入っている姿勢で構えると、肩甲骨の運動が狭い範囲に制限されて、スムーズで正しい竹刀の振り上げ、振り下ろしができません。
Right? I don't know if you noticed that
これを行うと
that
自然と
extra.
肩の力が抜け、背筋が伸びるため
Look at
肩
it.
甲骨の運動が意識できます。猫背のような姿勢や肩に力が入っている姿勢で構えると、肩甲骨の運動が狭い範囲に制限されて、スムーズで正しい竹刀の振り上げ、振り下ろしができません。
Okay, hello Tobias. Nice to see you're here. And yeah, well, welcome to the chat. What I'm doing right now, like I have this video from Takenouchi that he goes through basics and stuff. So I'm breaking down a little bit. If you have any opinions on this, please don't hesitate on sharing them. And Melvin, sorry, I skipped your comment. So I know you speak English, so I'm gonna translate into English what you said. So you said you have two senses, one for Kendo and one for Iaido, and the Iaido sensei is not happy with the online classes, like overall, and with all the seminars that are going on. And he's saying that it's not appropriate. So what do I think about that? So listen, I think that you cannot substitute live contact and live interactions. The sensei, like for example, for me, when I'm looking at somebody's swing, I like to stand in the front, I like to stand on the side, I like to stand behind, just to see all of the different aspects that make together just a simple thing as the swing. So I understand how I won't be able to help somebody or kind of like get a full assessment of what's going on. On the other hand, given recent situations, we want to keep promoting people to stay active and to not per se like this, to not lose them, to like take a break and then end up quitting for longer time than they should, just because they kind of like are not getting any advancement. Because let's be honest, I mean, like, we stay in Kendo because we're getting something out of it. Like, we enjoy the work, we enjoy the art, we enjoy it. So it's easy for somebody that's not getting any type of feedback or any type of growing to kind of say like, okay, I'm going to start doing something else and maybe even forget about it. So yeah, I think it's not necessarily the best, but I think it's the best we got at the moment. Let's say in the future where we don't need to be like isolated and whatever. I don't see a reason why we couldn't do specific educational seminars online, especially with senseis that may want to share their knowledge that they're on in Japan, and then we have people in Latin America that cannot make that travel. So I think for me, it's been more beneficial to hear an information directly from the source than getting it from somebody that got their source over there and so on. Even when I talk, I say like, listen, this is my opinion, this is my interpretation of things, because I can admit that I've been in a seminar and I learned something, and that something was different than my friend learned it, right? Or like a different perspective. So I know that I won't be able to always give the information, actually, most likely never gonna give the information without having some type of influence on my thoughts, on my opinion, my perception. So yeah, I think it's a beneficial thing to have. It's not the best, and I think we need to polish more on that. But I don't know. It's opinion, I guess. You asked for the opinions. That's why I took the time. Okay, let's see what's next. What do you guys think about online seminars and so on? Everybody in the chat, what are you guys? What are your
相
thoughts
手に
on
隙を与えないまま攻めていくには、
that topic?
いつでも動き出せる準備が必要です。では、動きやすい足構えとはどのようなものでしょうか。基本的には足の左右の幅は拳一つ分程度です。 通常の場合は
Okay,
右足が
I'm
前に
gonna
出ます
skip
が
certain
右足の
parts.
か
I
か
just
との
want to
線
go
に
to
沿って
like
左足のつま先を置くようにします
specific spots, I
左
guess.
足の
But
かかとはわずかに上げておきます
one thing that I wanna mention on the way that we put our feet. I know I've been talking a lot about anchoring.
右足は伸ばしすぎて
Hold on,
つっかえ棒のようにならないように注意
let
が
me put
必
this
要
down a little bit for a second. One thing that I've been mentioning around is the whole thing with anchoring to make sure that we are engaging our left leg always when kamae. I think it's very easy to people to start resting on the right leg and be, holding their weight on the right leg, which you shouldn't.
ですからいつでも
Okay.
打てる体勢をとって前後に動くときと同じように動きたい方向の足を
Now,
滑らせる
I'm going to say, okay, hold on, I went too far.
つっかえ棒のようにならないように
Okay. Ashtabaki. So we're talking about
この
footwork.
場面ではいつ打突の好機が巡ってくるか分かりませんですからいつでも打てる体勢をとって打つチャンスが巡ってきたらすぐさま打つ相手が打ってきてもすぐさま対応できる
Okay,
ようにし
so one of the things that I always try to practice is, different footwork. I like to do a drill where you do circles, right? But also taking the time to do it slow and understanding the difference between suriashi and okuriashi is very important.
前に
So
動く時
here,
には
one of the main things, like look how the left leg it's engaged and pushing all the way until pretty much the right leg has to pull. One of the mistakes that I see a lot of people doing is that when they do okuriashi, when they practice okuriashi, they tend to go forward and put the weight here and then bring the left leg by pushing down. Where for me, the way I like to do it is that my right leg is making it there, but my left leg still pushing my hips forward, and at the same time, my right leg is pulling. So instead of doing this, I'm doing this. And very subtle, there's a little bit of a push at the end of that. Even though if I'm doing small footwork, I'm always having that little kick, the fumikiri, pop, to bring the left leg forward sharply and quickly. Doesn't matter if I'm doing small step or a bigger step. So that's one of the things I always like to try to get people always in mind, that never put the weight on the right leg. Instead, always be pushing with the left leg. Theo, so you're saying that, and we're talking about the seminars, doing online seminars and stuff like that. Online is not the best not the best for correcting mistakes or explaining small details of a technique. You look the person-to-person connection, which is very important for Kendo. But it can be a great tool on spreading information and points of view. I agree. Well, I mean, pretty much what I'm doing here is, sharing my points of view and hopefully sharing with you some information that I get from some of you and, online or whatever. The biggest thing that you want to do is that you want to make sure that when you're, what you said, like you lose all those details on the techniques and so on. One of the best things that I feel for like learning tools, it's remembering how things feel rather than remembering what somebody else has said. So doing that's one of the things that I feel that gets lost in the online teaching or in online seminars and so on, because you don't get to see with somebody in front of you, okay, suriage feels this way, or okuriashi feels this way. So that's one of the things that that you want to make sure that you don't forget, that you need to practice on your own, and you need to feel how things, I guess, feel. I'm being redundant with that. So that's the biggest thing about it. Okay, so let me see. Okay, right here.
後ろに動くときは逆に右足でしっかり床を押し、左足を滑らせるように後方に動かし。
When going backwards, it's kind of the same thing, right? You want to push back as with the right foot as much until the very last second to go back. I want to show a little bit of fumikiri. Okay, so here, look.
足を滑ら
right
せるよう
here,
に前に
there, right about this spot, the leg, until this spot, the leg is pushing. And at this point, the right leg is pulling, but the momentum from the left leg is bringing the sword forward.
後ろに動くとき
You said the muscle memory connection. Yeah, and that's one of the things why we want to do as much as possible, right? Because a lot of times it's not necessarily, oh, we have to just understand the concept, but we have to do repetition, repetition, repetition to know how it feels. So that's literally the best advice that anybody has given me in Kendo is that remember how it feels when you do it right. So footwork, cut, or whatever is always the best thing
速やかに引きつけます
to remember how it felt rather than what somebody said.
左手拳が中心から外れないようにすると
Now, I do want to point out look how when he goes back, he doesn't lift the toes, right? He's pushing with the front of the foot back and making sure that it's with pressure and you have good intensity on the way back. You can do footwork slow, but still have good intention, good momentum and
動きたい
force.
方向の足を滑らせるように横に動かしもう片方の足を素早く引きつけます床と腰が水平に移動するように心がけましょう動くときには体の軸が左右にぶれないように
And look how every time he lands, every time he takes a step, he's ready to go whichever direction he needs to go. Even though, he's doing the exercise left and right, if he needed to go forward, he could. And that's the goal, I think, that everybody should have. When we're practicing footwork, even though it's like very slow or very fast, every time you take one step, you should be ready to take whichever other step to any direction you want.
体をかわしながら打突したり防いだりする足さばきです近い間合いからの打突に用います
Now, I have a question for everybody. This type of footwork, taisabaki, right? In your experience, and it's an opinion thing, when is this most useful? Or why is this exercise useful? Because I feel like that's maybe one of them that maybe people make a different connection on it. Oh, Tobias, yes, actually, oh my God, that's a good point. His hips are always on the same height. So a lot of times when we disengage the left leg, or maybe we're just not being aware, or we just don't know yet, the hips kind of like wobble, either go up or above or below that line. So it's very, very important that we keep that. So normally what I tell people is to make sure that you have a lower center of gravity, so you're not. Hold on, let me actually. So normally what I try to do is let me just put this camera like looking out this way. Okay, so a lot of times, especially with beginners, when they start tensing up, I feel like they start doing this, right? So when they're taking a long step, they go down and then go back up. But if you have a lower center of gravity, obviously not lowering yourself this way, a lower center of gravity instead of up, you can go forward and keep the same line for the hips. And even if you're doing a longer step, you can still maintain that by keeping that pressure with the left leg and working together with the right leg instead of switching the weight from one leg to another. Again, opinion please, if you have a different way of doing it or different thought about it, please share it. The other thing is that I forgot to mention too, and you kind of remind me, Tobias, is that there is keeping the hips, I mean like the body, the whole body engaged forward. A lot of times happens that when we try to overreach, we kind of open up and kind of get out of that line of power. We get out of the center line and switch the way that our body's facing, where we should have it coming out straight forward to the opponent rather than attacking this way. I don't know, just tell me what you think, because I think that's also a very important aspect to make sure that we stay facing our opponent and always have that. I feel that when we do that, when we shift this way, number one is like we're more vulnerable. It's gonna take us longer to get back here and be facing the opponent in the proper way. But also we're kind of like unbalanced, right? I don't know, I think so. Maybe the strike is going to be softer. so on, a bunch of other maybe bad habits that can come out of that. So yeah, keep your hips and your body always looking to your opponent. Engage that. I actually want to know if this is something that you've been taught this way, and anybody here. But one of the things that I know they say to have your feet straight, right forward, looking towards your opponent. But when I'm in kamae, I tend to shift my right foot a little bit this way, but keep this one. So it kind of does a little bit of a triangle towards my opponent's right big toe, right? So I try to keep this leg kind of pointing out towards the center of my opponent as I go forward. I feel like if I were to do this naturally, it would be harder for me to do that. So yeah, that's something how did you do it? Because that's something that I'm not sure if everybody does the same thing or does something similar. I know it's a very small detail, and the sensei where I was practicing here in Miami, he kind of mentions it, saying like pigeon toes, kind of like, you know, the way that the pigeons have their toes a little bit inwards. For me, it's a little bit more like, not even like this, obviously, but like, you know, it's not like this. It's a little bit like that. I don't know. Tell me how you see it, how you do it. That's actually interesting to see if anybody has a different perspective, different point of view on that. Okay.
足を右斜め前に出し、素早く左足を引きつけます。この時、右足
Hey, Jan, how's it going? Welcome to the chat.
が一致しています。
I'm going to repeat the question that I just made just because I think you probably are going to have also an interesting perspective on it. But how do you keep your feet towards your opponent? Are your feet parallel, or do they kind of like, I was saying that for me, what I do is I have my left foot straight forward, but my right foot, it's a little bit angled, and my big toe is kind of like pointed towards the big toe of my opponent, kind of trying to stay my right foot looking towards the center line rather than both of them parallel. I just want to know if anybody does it differently when it comes to the way that we are in kamae. But yes, right now Takenouchi is demonstrating hirakiashi. Okay, so in Japanese, correct me because I said taisabaki, but hirakiashi. So hiraki, what's the word hiraki mean specifically? That translation itself, if you could please, because you know, as you said, that's what I have you here for, right?
同じように今度は左斜め前に移動します。この時にはまず左足を斜め前に出し、右足を左足の方向に引きつけます。
For me, I think perfecting, or I'm not even gonna say perfecting, but like improving on all this type of footworks will allow us to fluidly turn, fluidly move through an opponent, stop, change directions. And even though I know it might be boring, might be tedious to do it slow, I think that the slower you can do it with the most control is going to help you understand the motion, how to do it faster. Because remember, like, it doesn't matter how good you are at moving in one direction. If you really cannot adapt and move to another direction, it really doesn't do much. I mean, it does a lot, but it's not, you know, it's not versatile, I guess. Okay, so Melvin, you said, what is the use for hirakiashi in practice? When it comes to, personally, and this thing is an opinion thing too. When it comes to, let's say, keiko, hirakiashi, or the understanding hirakiashi can be useful to understanding on the turning. When you go through and turn around, that's one thing. The other one, it could be used, especially if you're like, what's the word? It's better to show, I guess, instead of speaking. So, it's not always, it's going always gonna be as evident doing this in Keiko, right? Obviously, this type of motion we do a lot in Keiko, where we try to move a little bit to change the angle of the fight. Especially, you see a lot on Shiai when they start from this angle, but they want to like adjust the cord, or they want to get like a diagonal line of the cord, so they kind of move that. I think that's the most evident way to see this one. This one though, I think most often we see it more a little bit like this, and you can see it as like in like Suriage. Actually, there's a video. I have a video here that you will probably see it in this video. Let's see. Okay, let me see if I have it. Okay. Actually, somebody sent me this video on Instagram a while back, and I found it very interesting, and I'll share it here. And I think in this video you will appreciate that. Why is this like that? Oh, okay, so this, I don't know why it's tilted. I don't know how to tilt it. I'm sorry, guys. But I guess you can see a little bit of the principle being applied right there, right here. I don't think we're going to necessarily use that specifically like that, but again, I think it's very helpful to understand how to move your body in different positions, because it's all about that. It's about learning how to move your body and adjust in different situations. So let me catch up with some of the messages here. John, you said that you think that your feet are both straight, but you're not certain. You think your kids have feet pointing slightly to the right side, and I always try to correct that. So, okay, so when you mean the right side, if this is kamae, you mean like this or like this? Like, okay, so this is type A and type B, right? And the opponent being like that. Because you're saying right side, so that's what I'm thinking. So for me, it's not necessarily that it's something I prefer. It's something that I guess I was taught, and it just stuck with me. I find it to be natural for me now to have a little bit of that angle here, but it's a very slight angle. It's not necessarily very, very noticeable, because I'm still looking towards the middle of the opponent. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have my right leg being towards the center of the opponent. That's what I'm doing. So John, you said Hirakiashi is used for kata. It's hardly used in Shinai Kendo, but it's good for the brain, I guess. Okay. Okay, you said left side. So both feet of the boy. So I'm saying both feet to the left side. So I think yeah, I think you're definitely correcting the right thing, because I think that will cause this to happen, right? I'm guessing. I can't. When I try to visualize it, that's what I see. I see maybe like shifting that way. And yeah, and Jan, I think you are correct. I think Hirakiashi is not really used so much in Shinai Kendo, as you say. But the principle of moving the body and so on, it's very important. And I think that's the reason why we should practice and take the time. And I think this is the Hirakiashi. It's a little bit of not really used to practice so much, maybe for that reason. But yeah, I think learning how to control and move the body is essential. So yeah, so let's keep going. Sorry. Oh, I was gonna mention about okuriashi and suriashi, right? Look how close to the other foot the left foot is coming, right? So it's almost kind of like, it's almost crossing, and maybe sometimes even crossing, right? When he's bringing the left foot. I think last week I showed in that book that I like, how suriashi is a little bit more parallel than okuriashi. And I think that's one of the keys to fluidity in footwork. I feel that a lot of times when we're taught okuriashi, we kind of transfer doing the same thing for suriashi than it is for okuriashi. And I think there's a fundamental difference, even though the principle is kind of the same. And the goal is to obviously to move. So, but I think understanding that point, because look, right? Like the feet are kind of coming parallel to each other, almost even crossing when he's going through.
踏み込み足は素早く前に出て
Now here it's very interesting because he's doing it
あまり右足を高く上げすぎない
a little bit different, right? But still very fluid.
足先からではなく右膝から
But you see how he's bringing, okay, let me see if I can catch it. He's bringing the left foot a little bit closer than we would if we were doing just regular slow okuriashi, right? Like step by step. But this, I think, is like really good example. I think if we need to mimic practicing suriashi, I think that's a great practice right there. Just the way that he just did that. So let's wait for him to do it without the shinai. Nope. Alright, so now watch it. So right here you see like he's bringing the feet almost parallel, but he's definitely not crossing them. He's making it more evident here, I guess, be more control. But I think this is really good to mimic if we want to get like, you know, fluid forward. And remembering the purpose of each foot. Left foot's pushing, right foot's pulling. It's not holding the weight, it's pulling. And I think the body weight is being pushed and continued by the momentum. And again, look at the hips. The hips are staying the same level. They're not wobbling up or down. So, next question. Why do we do yoga buri? Why is it important to do yoga buri? Or why is it useful, I guess, in your opinion? I like these slow down breakdowns that they do. One thing I want to point out is, you know, the elbows. A lot of times I feel that people, they kind of over open the elbows and they can change the swing of the shinai on the way down. He's being very natural in the way that he opens them. He's opening them because you don't want to keep them like this, right? He's definitely opening them, but in a very natural position and continuing the line to bring the shinai down as he swings down. Okay, Tobias, you're saying that for you it's a starter and mobilizing your upper body for the yoga buri. I think it's definitely I hate seeing suburi as a warm up because I like to think of it as like, you know, you should have warmed up before you start suburi. But I agree with you. It's definitely, I think it helps to understand the activation of each muscle when we overstretch. So I think when you stretch upper leg this way and you bring the shinai down, you're going to start feeling, you know, these muscles engage when you're bringing the shinai down. Also, when you do that, same thing with the shoulders to come up, you start feeling more of the shoulders as you do that. But there's one little tip, I guess, or this little thing that I learned when I was in Japan that I'm going to share. I think I shared it previously. But let me... And this has not to do necessarily with the yoga buri action, but more with the position of the hand. If you have your hands together, when you swing up or down, it becomes more evident of the use of the left hand to bring the shinai up or down. Because if you use the right hand or the right arm to bring it up, you know, this happens where, let me see, you know, you end up being like close to your body. And same thing for the swing down. When you swing down with the right arm, it kind of does this motion, where if you understand that this hand I'm actually gonna keep this open so you understand this, what I'm trying to say. That the way to come up is more like this. So I'm not really using my right arm right now to, to demonstrate. And it becomes more evident when you doing this. I guess it's then like you should try. I don't know. I think I don't have good words for it. But when you do that, you're gonna feel more the use of the left hand when you put your hands together on the way up and on the way down too, right? Instead of pushing with the right arm, it's like the left arm, it's doing that motion that we watched at the beginning of the video. A little bit of that. I'm gonna say try because that's the best way I can communicate it, because it's definitely not something I'm having a good time expressing. Let me do something real quick. The battery over here is about to die, so let me just change that real quick before it does that. Okay, and we should be back. There we go. Okay, this battery is done. So let's keep going with this. Okay. Oh, Tobias, you said that Subri equals real Kendo with all its consequences. With all its without all its consequences. Like, what do you mean? But one of the things that, like, I like to see Suburi not as a warm-up, and a lot of people kind of say, okay, well, like, Suburi is going to be the warm-up, and I think at that point we should be focused on, we should be a little bit limber at least, and we should be focused on, okay, am I doing this right? My kama is good. It's like, it's for me, I guess, mental activation exercise, I guess, and study at the same time. Kind of like a review from last class type of thing. Anyways. Again, all of this is opinion, right? Okay, so now he's just doing a regular shomen. Some of the things that I really like and I notice as I watch this type of swings is the reach. I'm a big like advocate for just have the best reach you can without compromising your form, right? And one of the things here, he throws the arms forward, and look at that extension with the shinai, right? A lot of times when I see people, they hit maybe a little bit too low, and it's not so much of a reach. And I personally like that. Now, he doesn't have the arm up in here, right? He has it a little bit kind of like down here, maybe. So a lot of times, sometimes people kind of make it a little bit, exaggerate a little bit higher. I don't like that either. I want to have it, for me personally, I want to have it in front of my body, getting as much reach as I can without compromising my shoulders, my arms, and so on. Jan, you're saying that kirikashi is also a mental activation and warm up in that regard. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that we couldn't use, tsuburi as a warm-up, but I think mentally we should also see it as much more than that. Because, I mean, we do it for a reason, not for that, like, we could be warming up with doing anything else. Okay, and now look. Oh, I think I went back too far. Okay, so on the swing up, you see how there's flexibility on the arm. It's not this. It's a little bit more like a whip action. He's not pulling the sword with the right arm, but he's allowing the elbow to relax as he's ready to launch it forward. And look how he throws the arms forward. Also remember that doing slow suburi doesn't mean that you need to do slow swing. I think it's about taking the time between swing to swing, or cut to cut. But you want to have good form and intensity on each swing. Okay, so Sayumen. Now, this is something that I see a lot of people kind of struggle with, and is that especially the left cut, cutting to your left. A lot of people tend to like over twist their hand, and they kind of cross their arms, and you lose not only power, you also lose control, and you also lose reach on your sword. Ideally, you want to have, I think, your hands on your center line. Look at that. That's one. And then after that, he keeps the left hand in the center and keeps him in the center as he goes down. And good extension and good hit, right? He's not crossing the hands, he's keeping them out away from the body. Now, this is something very interesting that it may change your perspective when it comes to the center line, and I want your opinion as well. How thick is the center line of the body? So before, I mean, like I always thought that, the center line is just like one line that you could like draw with a pencil in the center of your body, and that's where you should keep your hand. But actually I had a sensei from Kobe, if I'm not mistaken, tell me that, your center line is kind of like the thickness of your fist, right? So as long as your thumb is within that thickness, I guess it's considered staying in the center line. So you can move a little bit within that line. You have a little bit of wiggle room, right? But mainly you want to keep your hand right there in the center, and the switch of the angle is done with your right arm and the wrist, right? So if you watch that one more time, and again, if you have a different perspective, you have a different point of view, shoot it down in the comments, because I really want to know how you do it. Oh, all right, hold on. So you see both arms are in the center, and the swing is being done by the angle where the wrist is coming down into, right? Tell me if you see something different, please. Gonna be able to appreciate that more here. Okay, you see the left hand and the right arm are slightly within, within the borderlines of that center line.
同じように頭上で手を返して相手の右面に打ち込むように竹刀を左上から斜めに振り下ろします。左右に振るときには軸となる左拳が中心から外れないようにしましょう。左足で床を後ろに蹴って面。
The only thing I have to say about Hasaburi, obviously, you want to make sure that you remember everything you've been doing on your suburi and like how do it correctly. But you want to land with both feet as you do Hasaburi. A lot of times, kind of like people do one foot and the one that's going behind kind of slides into the floor but never really makes solid contact as you go forward or back. And you want to make sure that you land with both feet in order. Imagine that you're going to have to jump forward again if you do one jump, right? You want to make sure that both feet are on the ground rather than just one, and then with that foot push you back. I heard someone said that it should sound like your feet should like tuk 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 instead of tuk 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 like that. I don't know if that makes sense.
一足一刀の間合いは一歩入れば相手を打てる間合いのことを言います。この距離がつかめると剣道の勝負についてもっと深く学べるようになるでしょう。
I think again that this is some of the type of drills that you can do with a partner now with masks and so on. I think that also practicing just being in kamae with somebody and practicing that communication between the shinai, it could be very, very useful, regardless if you're doing, keiko or just, practicing with somebody in front of you.
技を出すためには正中線と呼ばれる自分と相手の中心を結ぶラインに竹刀があるかどうかがポイントになります。中心のラインに自分の竹刀があれば技を出すまでに最短
Now,
距離で
this is something that I always talk about with people in general, and it's
相手の攻めに勝って中心を
coming in to control the shinai. How do you do it? Like not how you do it, but like understanding the distance and like how deep you can go and so on. Because I feel like a lot of people when they practice like this, where they try to come in close to the opponent, they may kind of just think it's just footwork exercise, right? I think that practicing like this with somebody, you can take advantage of the person, and in the sense that you want to kind of observe the reaction as you go forward, even if the person is not going to attack. But I think taking the time to just coming in forward and understanding how deep you can go without being vulnerable to a strike and so on is very important, and those sort of things are key, because everybody's step is going to be different, and depending on ability, and so on. You want to learn for yourself what's your good step, when are you pushing it, when you could have done more, and so on. I don't know. I think that might be useful. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. I kind of want to go into like kirikashi and all those stuff. See? Okay, we're going through here. I made it to like waza, each waza. So. Oh, dang it, I kind of went too back. Okay, so men. Okay, so one of the things that I want to point out with men is that make sure that you're not cutting down. Like you're actually cutting and making good impact, but cutting forward. I made a video a while back about how your shinai can break and based on the impact and so on. When you're cutting down, I feel that you end up hitting mengane a lot more, and therefore making your shinai last less. But here, if you see the shinai kind of bends as it strikes, right? He's hitting in the appropriate part. He's definitely touching the mengane. I'm not saying that you're not gonna touch the mengane with a cut, but the shinai is kind of not getting a direct impact into the mengane, just because number one thing he's cutting with that reach. He's definitely hitting in the appropriate manner. The other things also, as motodachi, you want to avoid lifting up your head, right? So being the person attacking, you want to make sure you don't hit down so that person doesn't hurt, causing them to raise the head in order to avoid the pain. So I think that's why it's important, to not only have a good motodachi, but also just be conscious of, how are you doing, what are you doing, in order to, both of us keep improving and so on. And also, look at that relaxation right after the strike. You see, like it's not pressing down the sword. There's relaxation, and the sword kind of goes up, bounces up after the strike. It's not sticking down to put pressure down. Look at that.
と大きく発生し、吐く息を利用すると内が鋭くなります。
There's another thing. The hands, and I know a few weeks back we had a conversation about this whole thing with like lifting the tip after the strike and whatever, blah, blah. But the hands, I want to point out that even though, he stroked, the hands relax and the arms are not tense after the strike. There is a certain level of relaxation even though you're keeping the arms in place. And the reason for that is when you want to be able to strike again. And I think if you're too tense, it's going to take you longer to do continuous waza. So you always want to make sure that you, after the strike, you relax in preparation for the next strike. Because you always want to do, one more.
コテは4つの打突部位の中で一番手前に見える部位です。腕だけを伸ばしても届きそうですが、手先だけを使った技は体勢が崩れて一本になりません。
Am I the only one that finds so gratifying hitting a good kote? Like with the good part of the shinai and getting that sound and that bounce? I think that's kind of like, it just makes such a good sound to hit that good kote. And again, this is one of the techniques that you want to be mindful of your partner. You don't want to hit down and you don't want to overly hit, making the shinai hurt. I think it's very important. Also, for motodachi, it's very important to make a proper opening. I think that's something that I see a lot, and now I'm gonna switch up here to the main real quick because I think that's important. I see a lot when people are receiving kote, right? One thing that they might do this to receive it. So you're making it closer to the body. That's not really, it's realistic because it could happen, right? But you're not allowing the partner to get a good strike. And also, it might happen that they hit the kote, but then they get stuck in the do, and so on. So that's one. Another one that I see people do is kind of they open up like this. So maybe you're gonna open like this, and again like this. I think you're putting at risk your joint over here, but also you're not giving a clear. The person's gonna have to come up like in an angle to get a good hit. I think personally that for receiving kote, you should keep the center and kind of put pressure and communicate with your partner. And as the person kind of takes out the shinai, all you gotta do really is just allow the tip to go up a little bit and kind of keep the kote where it was. How do you do it? Tell me if you have a different way to do it. Because I think that's very important. I see a lot of people kind of complaining, not only when getting hit on the kote, but also complaining, the motodachi is not really giving me a fair opportunity, a good opportunity to do a good kote. And a lot of people tend to compensate by hitting to the sides. And I see a lot on students that they overly swing the shinai around in order to get that angle correctly where it should be, especially for kihon, right? Right there. Just hit the kote. I know that looks more like a man, but you want to hit it straightforward when you're practicing kihon. So yeah, please let me know if you have an opinion on that, thought on that, because I think that's important. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's keep watching some of the stuff. Oh my God, hold on. Okay. We see right there that opening of the motodachi, they left it pretty much where the kote was. Of course, when we're doing keiko, we're going to have a different angle, a different spot where the kote might be, but you want to practice the basics, the hit, the strike, the distance, and all the stuff. And I think a good motodachi should do that. Just keep it right there. Allow the communication, because that's very important, the communication of the shinai when it's coming in, and as it comes in, if the person like lift the shinai, not exaggerate it, just kindly open and allow the kote to be stroked right in that position. I am going to ask everybody in the chat, and this I want you guys to think about it and just share it. what is your biggest pet peeve when it comes to your motodachi? Like, what is something that motodachis do that you think is like, oh my god, I wish I didn't do that, or you know, or you hate it when they do that? Yeah, please share
前
that.
後に振り上げてまっすぐ
I'll go first. I don't like when I'm in a session and I'm doing like kakarigeko and I'm doing 120%, and then my motodachi it's kind of like, let's say, like lazy and taking a break. So for example, for instead of subaseriai, they will just kind of like bounce back and run back, so making it where like I miss my hikiwaza because the person didn't hold, or maybe I turn around trying to get another technique, but the person kind of like just hasn't even make that opening. So I don't know, when the person is kind of like, I'm the one doing the drill, but the person is kind of like overly taking a break. Because let's be honest, when you're receiving kakarigeko, it's not really hard to just be and make an opening for the person, right? But I feel like sometimes the motodachi will probably like kind of overtake a rest and just be way too lazy
振り下ろすことが
and
ポイントです。
not letting me do good kakarigeko. I don't know.
相手の竹刀に対して平行に振り下ろすイメージを持つと刃筋正しく小手を打つことができます。打つ時に手首が硬くならないように柔らかい手の内を心がけましょう。
Also, look at that extension on the kote. Kote, I think, is one of the techniques that it has so much diversity where it's stroke, right? Because you can hit kote. Okay. Keep switching cameras back and forth. Don't worry, we're not gonna watch the whole thing because I know that'll probably take forever. And yeah, I know people got stuff to do, but I think kote has such diversity where it gets stroke, because you can hit it out here, you can hit it like, closer to your body, you can hit it in an angle, so, and you can hit both kote. So it has so much diversity on where it could be stroke, that we definitely, I think it's one of the techniques that we should break down like all different aspects in order to learn and to get used to and adapt to different angles where it could be. Jan, thank you for answering my question about what do you don't like. What don't you like about when that the motodachis could do? So you say that you don't like when motodachi won't take the distance for you to strike again, doing kihon after I was running through. I think it makes perfect sense. You're asking if it makes sense? I think it makes perfect sense. For me, for example, I think I know what you're saying, and I don't like it. Like, I'm doing good waza, whatever. I'm studying my kamae. I get ready. I come in. I go through. I turn around. And my motodachi is like all the way to the other side of the dojo. So I have to either wait for him to come here so I have distance to go through again, or I have to go over there, which I don't really have a problem. I only have a problem when there's no distance after, so I can do my waza, right? Is that what you mean? Hold on, I think is my phone ringing? No. Okay, is that what you mean? When like the motodachi kind of like just stays back behind and I cannot really do the waza? The other one that could be, I guess, a pet peeve too, is when they come in and they come in too close, and I'm turning around, and this is one of the things that I like to practice this way, is after I do a waza and I turn around, I try to keep mental alertness where I'm turning around, trying to be ready where I have to maybe do seme and go, or maybe adjust a little bit and go. But if the motodachi comes too close, then I have to kind of like break that in order to either go back, but if there's a wall behind me, I have to wait for him to adjust. It's kind of like awkward situation. Yeah. Tobias, for you, you said that it's damaged equipment like shinai, like when they don't take off their shinai. Yeah, especially, you know what? Especially when they're being lazy and they don't like tie up the shinai and they see it, they know it's there, and it's like yeah, you know, like we need to stop because you need to fix your shinai. So I get that. Um, and I think for me that would be a pet peeve, especially you know a higher level, because I'll expect that from a Q, I guess. Um, so Jan, you're saying that if moto is too close, perhaps you didn't run through far enough. So no, I mean like when it's too close, and it happens to me in my dojo quite often, where okay, the place where I was practicing, it's probably it's very narrow, right? So normally instead of practicing wall to wall, we kind of make like a little bit of an angle. So when I go through and I'm stopped by the wall and I turn around and I have my wall like on my back and the motodachi comes too close, yeah, that's annoying. That's what I mean. Like you run through all the way to the wall, you turn around and the motodachi is like right here, and I'm like, dude, come on, like you know, chill. um, oh, Tobias, and it's also dangerous when the shinai is broken. Yeah, I mean, like when I'm instructing, I personally I tell people constantly check your shinai, and even you know like I see people kind of like just kind of like they look at it and they done, and I'm like no, like look at it, like what I do is I kind of exaggerate in front of them. Uh, I'll exaggerate in front of them the motion and say like, okay, go like this, and you know like I went to school for music therapy, and I had a teacher that you know like he said like whenever you want to like correct a bad student on their behavior, like I guess you can model the behavior close to them, so you know to get close. So I kind of think of that when I'm doing it to somebody that's not really looking at their shinai. I'll get close and start be like, and then you see them go like, okay, let me check. And I don't know, it's just a fun fact over there. So yeah, you know what? Let me show you guys because I found this shinai. Was it this one? Let me see. Yeah. So I got this shinai at the last World Championship, and the guy that sold it to me is like it was a Korean vendor, and he said that this was the shinai that you know for the Korean team, and I want you just to see, hold on. Okay, this is a made shinai, and this is a do body shinai, right? Like so, this regular do body, and more or less is what I would use, right? I don't like them to be so thick, but so he got me to buy this shinai, and look how thick this thing is, like I don't know, like to be honest, like I mean, like this is ridiculous. Uh, Personally, I don't really like this shinai. And then he told me like, oh, after I bought it, right, of course, because he gave me a good price, like, oh, I'll give you this shinai for $25 and blah, blah, blah. So like, okay, cool, I'll try it. And he told me like, yeah, but you cannot use it at practices. Sorry, I dropped my light. You cannot really use it at practices because it will break. Only use it for like tournaments. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to know what it feels like? You know, that kind of sucks. But yeah, I just wanted to show that shinai. It's just like I thought it was interesting just to see that and how thick. And I was wondering because like I looked at some of the videos, Korea versus Japan, and I seen that those shinai. If you look at it, they're so much thicker than the shinai the Japanese was using. And to me personally, I didn't like them. It just didn't feel right for me. Anyways, let's go back to the video. Oh, and let me know if any other pet peeves anybody has on motodachis. Exactly, I should make a video. I should make like a video of like all the different types of motodachi, right? All the different types of bad motodachi.
胴打ちは相手が中段の構えから手元を上げ V を開けたところを打つ技です。胴打ちの形を覚えるときには
You know what? I should also do a little bit of comparison the distances between strikes Notice the distance
基
where
本
he's
的な打ち
starting
方は
from
打つ方
for
向
the
の
do.
距離まで大きく
Um,
入っていきます。
I think it's a little bit
同
closer
時
than
も
the ones that he
大
was
きく
doing
打つ時
before.
には左拳が額の前に来る程度まで振りかぶります。
What do you think?
頭上から前腕から先を返して相手の胴に対し斜め45度の角度で振り下ろして相手の右胴を打ちます。左胴の場合も同じです。打つ時に体が曲がっていないかどうか、刃筋が立っているかどうかチェックしましょう。
Melvin, you asking me if I can share the link for this video. So I got this not from YouTube. I couldn't tell you where I got it because I forgot. I think maybe somebody may have gifted it to me. But message me and we can see how I can get how I can make this available to you in any way. So Jan, you're saying just like in Bokuto no Yoru Kendo Kihon Keiko Ho. So you're talking about the distance between Do and between Do man and actually you know what, like I need to revisit those katas because I haven't done those in a while, a long time, and I think I should work on that. I should revisit those. But please like specify a little bit more. Like you're saying, like in those kata, the point is made. I'm guessing that's what you're saying. The point is made to have a proper distance for each waza, and it's slightly different. And I think, and that's one of those things like why we should practice also kata and studying the benefit of kata, both kata, the ones you're mentioning and just the regular kata, just because there are aspects of it that are applicable directly into, I'm gonna say, day-to-day kendo, right? So yeah, definitely. And that's something that I think it goes over our heads a lot, like that distance, the difference distance between each waza.
次は喉元。自分の
Look at the distance from his ki. Look at the distance where he's coming from, and when he actually engages into the ski. So he starts in that what would be isokuito no kamae for a lot of us, right? But he comes in closer with one step. Actually, I kind of just want to go a little bit back and just show. I kind of went a lot of bit back.
刃筋が立っているかどうかチェックしましょう。
I wish I had better controllers for the speed of this and so on. But okay, so ski. So he's coming, like he's engaging, he's not really doing ski yet. He's closing in the distance, right? And then after that small step, which if you look at the right foot, it was very small, right? Let's see it. Okay, so from here, look at how small that foot is, that step is. I mean, he's bringing a little bit longer the left foot. He's making it a little bit closer, I guess, to get a little bit of extra reach. But at this point, here's I guess when he's going to start engaging for that ski. And at this point, he is way closer than he was when he started. One of the things that I've been liking to focus on, it's learning to attack from a closer distance. Because this, now when he attacks, is going to become less predictable onto what technique he's coming. Yes, the opponent knows that he's coming already, but he doesn't know where he's going. Because at this point, he's still on a solid kamae. He hasn't changed the angle of the sword or anything. There's no indication where he's going. He could fake a man, go for do. He could put pressure and go for kote, or as he can go for men, or as he's going to go, he's gonna go for ski. Right? He's engaging and he's keeping. Granted, the opponent knows he's coming for ski, so he's opening up, but he's keeping that tip straightforward, and up to this point still he can go for man or he can go for ski, and then he engages for that ski. Right? Now there's one very interesting aspect of ski is that he's coming in with the body, he's closing in the distance, he's attacking, pretty much doing the end of a man. He's doing that tenouchi at the end to get that sharp reach onto the tsukidare, right? But as soon as he makes contact and he gets that, he gets it out. I have a feeling that a lot of people kind of just and then kind of just keep going and stabbing through and cutting through, and no. I think it's a very subtle motion right there. Right, tenouchi right there, right? Of course, he lets the body to continue, but then he disengages and relaxes. And what that does, not only keeps the person safe, right? But also makes you available to do another technique if you need to. If he needs to go ski men or ski kote men, he could, because he was able to relax right there. I think that's very important. Very, very important when it comes to practicing ski. Solid push, allow the body to come in forward. Good tenouchi, but disengage the sword right after. That will allow you to do another waza.
つく瞬間は手の内を少し絞ってつくことがポイントです。ついたらすぐに手を引いて元の中段に戻り、残心を取り、身構え、気構えを示します。
I need to practice. I need to get back to ski. I haven't done ski in over a year. And again, this is something that I always like to point out, is that we need to practice ski. I think everybody should practice it. Not everybody should be doing it in keiko or shiai and so on. But I think at any point, everybody should be practicing ski. Learn it. I don't agree with the whole like you cannot do ski until you're short and knee on sandan. I think everybody should learn how to do it on a controlled manner and little by little, because what's happened, what in my experience, what happens with people is that then when they get to the point where they can do it, they're not confident at all to do it, and they have more tendencies to actually miss it and hurt somebody. So I think I personally think we should have it in a controlled way, practicing ski.
ですので、せめて相手を崩して打つことが大切です。実戦では小さく
What do you think? Should people when should people start practicing ski? I want your opinion. Don't get persuaded by my point of view, or if you don't like my point of view, please let me know. But when do you think people should start practicing ski, and any advice for people starting ski? Yeah, I think that's important too. Okay, so this is very important, right? Actually, this is something that I was talking about with the people I was practicing yesterday. Is that semi, that step for the semi? Wait for a second and see. Okay, right here. This first step. Okay, so if you notice, there is not necessarily a stop between that first step and a second step. But there is, I think internally, there is a little bit of a moment of holding back, and it's like a microsecond to study the opening, or to allow the pressure to take an effect on the opponent to register so you can come in. I feel that a lot of people kind of get into the habit of like, okay, I'm gonna go man, step man, step man, step man. So the timing kind of becomes the same, the pressure kind of becomes the same, and it kind of becomes predictable for the opponent to know when it's coming, and which is not necessarily a problem, but it becomes a problem when you take that into keiko, where the timing of your step and the approach to your opponent is the same continuously or consistently, that it becomes easy to for your opponent to read it, because technically you're not doing men ariso kuito, you're doing men from toma, because you're going engaging a man. So if the opponent learns that you're going to engage a man all the time, then it becomes men from toma, I guess. I think. So Tobias, you said that in Germany you have 6th to 3rd Q exam, and the Bokuto ni Yoru Kendo Kihon Wasa Keiko Ho. I think I'm gonna make like a button, a link, just to copy paste that, because that's so long. Okay, so anyways, I got distracted. I think if they practice ki, then only on the strict rules, like in Kihon practice and not in Jigeiko. And yes, and that's one of the things. So we see ski being done in those katas that they need to do for 6th to 3rd Q, right? From the beginning. So from the very beginning, the kata is showing that. And I agree with you. They need to practice it under strict rules. I've been in high schools in Japan where the kids are not allowed to do ski during keiko, are not allowed to just do ski, but they do take the time to practice the technique. So that's, I think for me, that was like mind changing, like mind opening, right? It's like, okay, you're not allowing them to do ski so they don't hurt each other, but they need to learn this stuff. Melvin, you're saying that from the very beginning at your dojo you tried, but being super cautious and using not a person but the wall, for example. Okay, that could be also a way to to get the person or the kids or whoever get the ball rolling on practicing ski. So one of the things one way that I really like that I was taught ski is that start by with a person, start by putting the shinai there where it should go, at the distance where it should go, and then bring the sword back down, right? And then so practicing that motion, then like little tiny step, and when I say tiny step, I really mean tiny step, and then do the same thing with a tiny step, and so on. Oh yeah, John. So you're saying what I said, from close distance at first. Yeah, I jumped the gun there. And you're saying that you also agree that ski should be practiced in Kihon right from the beginning. It will also improve your menuchi in Jigeiko only if they are comfortable enough. Yeah. So in Jigeiko only if they are comfortable enough. Yes, I agree. I think that obviously it becomes a responsibility of the sensei to make sure that all those aspects are met and so on. I agree completely in the close distance. I think practicing ski teaches so much more than just the wasa, just the strike. When it comes to distance, control, awareness, and especially for the receiver, because a lot of times we have that opening right there and we just don't really know that we have that opening because we don't have someone that feels confident on actually doing it. So I think for me as a receiver, I want people to try ski. Also training the motodachi to receiving ski. I think that's also very important. Understanding that you have to have good posture, you have to have the skidare like on the right position, not opening up, not relaxing your back, just good posture, and providing resistance against ski, but not to the point where you're going to challenge the sword. It's allowing the person to make impact and immediately dissipating that energy by stepping back. I don't know, that's the way I was taught, like you want to make sure that you're teaching not only the person doing it, but also the person receiving, because they could also not feel comfortable receiving ski. I have a friend that I was with in a Eiga seminar, and he received a ski from Eiga sensei, and he said it was like, kind of, I don't remember what his exact words, but he was like bliss, right? Because it put him where he needed. The ski was where he needed to be. He pushed him back, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It didn't hurt or anything like that. It was very solid, but not to the point where he was like coughing or anything like that, because he really knew where to put it and how to put it. So, and I think it was also his experience on receiving ski that made it that much more comfortable. I don't know. I'm just, I guess, sharing what comes into my head. Anyways, let's go back over here. Let's keep going with this. Okay, so.
そこで素早く足を使って内間に入り打突します。表からも裏からも内間に入って打つ練習をしましょう。打突する瞬間は手首のスナップを使って切るようなつもりで打ちます。肩、肘、手首を使って。
I really enjoy this breakdown of small waza right here, and I'm sorry, like I'm stopping this so much, right? But understanding the movement of the shinai for small waza, I think is very important, because I know there's always the talk about sashimen and chisaimen and so on, right? Or sashiwaza or chisaiwaza, I guess that would be the word, right? But I feel that a lot of times we're so focused on being faster, we're so focused on getting there first, that we compromise the cut, right? And a lot of times we tend to do that. I see people trying to do that, just doing that type of sashiwaza where like the shinai is barely getting on top and kind of like doing like a rubbing against the target, right? Where if you see here, he's going to, actually let me go into the main page here. He's going to hit the man. I need to have like a little tiny man that I can put on my finger. He's pushing with the left hand. I guess I'm gonna do it like this. He's pushing with the left hand to bring the shinai up, and then pulling to bring it down as he goes down to create impact. So he's not bringing the sword back up here. He's kind of, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at the camera, but it's kind of hard just to, But anyway, he's bringing up here and then pulling to bring the sword down to create that impact. And one thing is that he's keeping his hands close to his body, and then he pushes the hands, right, to like kind of close the distance, kind of in a surprise manner. Like, if that makes sense. Let's watch the breakdown here. So look at this. He's keeping the hands in kamae. He starts closing in the distance with the body. Look. Body goes first, then the hands. He starts pushing with the left hand, and the right arm is following as well, right? But look, he's pushing with the left arm. He literally pushes all the way up to kind of wind up the sword, brings the tip of the shinai up. He's not making a tiny little overhead. He's literally like pushing, and now, because he pushed, now he's gonna have the ability to pull down and create good force onto the shinai, good momentum. And with that pull, with that lever type of motion, he gets a good impact and good cut, which becomes very useful against that type of sashiwaza, right? Because if you think about it, if the shinai is coming on a straight motion and this shinai has kind of like that momentum, he's able to cut through and then hit into the target, getting the shinai out of the way and just cutting into the opponent, cutting into the center. Does this make sense? Is that useful? Is that something you knew? Is that how you do it? Look. Bam. Now, because we've seen in a slow motion, we're able to appreciate how he made the impact. And I'm gonna be picky for the people that wants to be picky about this. He's making the impact with the shinai before. He's making the impact with the shinai before the foot. But remember that sometimes not sometimes, but like the target is not necessarily down here. We're kind of trying to cut through. So he's making the impact a little bit higher. He's not fighting the sore, right? The sore is bouncing back up, but he's landing the fumikomi with his body to bring him forward slightly after, because technically he would have landed it kind of like closer to where the cut would have ended. It looks different because he's not fighting the sore after the impact. So yeah. Jan, you're saying like Kiryotoshi, and yes, it is like Kiryotoshi, right? You're cutting through the sore of the opponent when you have that lifting of the shinai. And Melvin, you're saying makes sense, but you're not there yet. In which part you're not there? In the part where like you're not pushing and pulling. Are you still kind of working on doing this type of motion, kind of like the sashiwaza, or what? Like tell me more. So and Jan, yeah, I think I understood what you meant when you said the Kiryotoshi, what I described. So yeah, I think so, right? But yeah, so with the whole thing with the fumikomi, I know a lot of times you're gonna see it a lot, right? Like where there is the impact of the shinai slightly first, but you see the unity of the body because technically it would have hit at the moment where the sword is coming down here. And on top of that, it's not like he is like reaching over and then landing with the foot, right? He's bringing the sword to the shinai, and then his body is pushing him forward. And Melvin, the best thing that I can say about the whole thing with like lifting the shinai and so on is that you want to make sure that you get out of the habit that you want to be faster than everybody, right? Like you want to get there faster. You want to have good technique because the good technique is going to make you faster. Not only because you're going to properly move your shinai, but also because you want to get rid of all the bad habits of using the wrong muscles, right? So when you're doing that type of waza, what makes it faster for me, I think, is that he's keeping his hands in until the very last moment, right? He is doing like this, and then in the middle of the waza, he's pushing the hands forward. When people tend to do that sashimen, they tend to kind of create the momentum by going out like this, so they tend to throw the hands before because their only goal is to go and hit. So it's just a matter of habit and like having the patience of slowing it down for yourself in order to make it there. I don't know. Again, it's an opinion.
.まずコテを一本にするためには相手の手元を崩さなければいけません。表から攻めていく場合は表からしのぎを使って
This is a discussion that I have had with many people and something I always like to bring up. How is your zanshin or your follow through? I shouldn't say zanshin, I should say your follow through after kote. Do you do it like this where you end up in subaseriai? Do you try to go through on the right side? Do you try to go on the left side? So which one do you do the most? Which one you think is correct? And so yeah, because I guess I'll share mine, right? I like to go straight forward, and if the opponent doesn't move or whatever, end up in subaseriai, but not subaseriai where I'm going to be close to the opponent like this, right? I want to come in and I want to be ready if I have to go for main waza or hiki waza or whatever. I normally, like, let's say like in competition or so on, I try to go in like that, but I notice that for me, I end up hitting that and going to the right side, my right side. I want to practice more going to the left side just because for me it's a little bit more uncomfortable to do that. So yeah. But Jan, you saying in your practices you go into Subasiriai afterwards. So yeah, I like to go into I like to do the same thing. I like to come in straight forward and always kind of like keep putting the pressure and keep my opponent in front of me rather than going to the side and have the opponent on the side. I want to go more onto this side just because I want to have that ability of changing directions. But I personally don't like it because I feel that if I go this way and I missed and the opponent is really good, he's in a really good position to go hikimen on me, right? But yeah, that's the thing. With the banam kote, with the kote, like it's on the, you said right side, and a hiki like sanshin. So you do so like that, and then like you kind of go on the right side and kind of like keeping. Okay, I think I can understand that. The reason why I like to do it like that as well, going onto the right side, is because naturally when we're practicing men, if the person's coming for men, most likely that person's gonna go this way. So if I try to go that way, I think I'm gonna conflict with his sanshin. We're gonna end up crashing. So I think I should go, like kote. But in all honesty, if you're that good, you should be able to go whichever way you want to go. But yeah. So you say that there is a six dance Japanese sensei that does it on the right side very well. So he goes hit, and I'm gonna say Kakarite's right side, right? He hits and goes out to the right. Yeah, I mean, like, and I guess I think that when you're really good, you could go whichever direction. You could even like go forward, hit the kote, and then maybe suasiriya and go backwards as well. And you have the opening for any waza as well. But that's very interesting because I think obviously everybody's going to have a preference. I don't think any of them are wrong. But you have to be able to do all of them. Janice, how's it going? Yeah, the stream is pretty good, man. We're doing pretty good. We're watching some good basics videos. And Jan, you said okay. So you meant to say that he does degote going on the left side, his left side. So yes, for me that's a challenging one, and especially it's because of that. It's a mental thing, and I know it. It's because I feel that my opponent is going to naturally go to my left side. But if I'm good enough, I should be able to come in, take the kote, and then go out before he makes it to that point. And it makes total sense, and what we talked about a few weeks back when it comes to like degote, that you should be able to hit that degote before he engages into the men. So again, if you're good enough, you should be able to go in whichever way you want. I am not to that level yet, right? At least not consistently. I can do it, but just not all every time.
そこで攻められたと感じた相手が中心を押し返してくる瞬間に竹刀を振り上げて小手を打ちます。
But you see, even here, you see when he hits the kote, he kind of goes into the right side a little bit.
相手の剣線は勢い余って中心から外れます。そうすると小手が打ちやすくなります。裏から打つ場合は押し返す瞬間に剣線を下げて相手の竹刀を中心から反らすか、裏から攻めて中心を押さえて小手を打つ方法。
You see, it's kind of like going a little bit to the right side, and I think that may be a little bit more of a competitive habit, maybe. Notice how in all of these techniques, he's coming in close, he is closing the distance, he's not attacking from very far. He's starting the seme from Toma, right? But he's closing the distance and engaging and then coming for the kote. He's not really stopping, right? But after this first step, he has the ability to change directions if he wanted to.
仕掛けて胴を打つ場合は 大胆に懐へ入っていく気持ちと攻めの強さが大切です。
And this is also another interesting, another interesting zanshin, right? Going out on the left side for do.
そこをすかさず打ちます。
So you can go either left or right. It's both of them are right. That's a beautiful thing about this, right? It's both of them are right.
入るので歩み足でも構いません。相手が面をかばったところで前腕を返し。
Okay, one of the things that I was taught when it comes to do is that when you're doing shikake waza for do, shikake do, right? You don't want to just go for do. You have to make an opening. So if you notice, look at what they're doing. They're kind of like faking for the man and then going for the do. Look, man, do. Of course, Kihon, this is basics, so they're exaggerating the motions. They're doing it big. Normally, I guess you wouldn't do it this big, but the principle is there. Fake the man and fast go to the do. Also, I think it's very important to learn and understand the footwork for the do. I think it's very important. Do me a favor, if anybody like listening to the stream right now, tell me if you hear a hum or like some type of like white noise in the stream. Just because I want to know if you know the quality of the sound, especially when I'm not talking. Yeah, that's it.
こちらから攻めて相手を崩し、隙ができた相手の突きだれに向かって突きます。攻め方としては大まかに裏から攻めて表から突く、表から攻めて裏から突く、下を攻めて相手の牽制。
Okay, so again, this first step, and the reason why I'm drilling this is just because it's so fresh lately. Thank you, Melvin. Thank you for letting me know that you didn't hear like a hum or anything like that. That's awesome. Thank you, Tobias. That's awesome. I'm sorry. The only reason why I said that is because I recorded my last video. I recorded doing the same setup, and I kept hearing, I guess it was my computer or something, and I just thought it was annoying. I was able to fix it, you know. Excuse me. I was able to fix it, you know, in software, whatever. But I just want to make sure that you don't get that because it could get annoying. That first step, coming in, and again, look, he's coming in, he's not necessarily stopping from the first step to the second, but he's showing Tame, right? Where if it wasn't the time for him to go, he would have stopped. Granted, it's hard to train that on this type of drills when you don't have that mentality because you know you're going to get that opening. But it's something that I think that we should be training at all times, even when we have nobody to train with, right? Taking that first step, and even though he has momentum, he's engaging the left leg, and to the point where like he didn't stop because obviously there's an opening, but he could have. And I realize this is not necessarily the best example, but it's definitely something that I kind of want to make sure that we all keep in mind.
腰が引けるような突きはいけません。外れたとしても突くぞという意思は相手にプレッシャーを与えることになります。
You see, I don't know if you feel it when you see that,
突くぞという意思は
but look, after the first step, there's not necessarily a pause, but there's like a moment of holdback where he's not. I think it's a feeling thing, right? Between the first step and the moment he engages, it's like I'm not stopping, but I'm also not rushing in. I guess is the best way to explain it. Okay.
最初から面を打つつもりでコテを出すのではなく、コテが決まらなかったので続いて面を打つという気持ちでなければ一本になりません。
Now we're starting on going into
最初から面を打つつもりでいると
Rensoku waza, continuous technique, and I think this is very, very important because it becomes at times the safest option when it comes to approaching an opponent, right? You want to always be ready for the next attack, but if you're in specifically like one of the best scenarios, I guess I could say, is like a team competition where you want to make an opening, you want to get a point, but you also don't want to risk yourself getting scored on. I think Rensoku Waza tends to be like the safest option when you approach somebody because you're ready to go for the next one and so on.
必要はありません。コテと面はセットで考えてはいけません。もしコテを打ったとき、胴や突きが開けばそこを打突しましょう。
And I want you guys to take a second and look at the feet.
セットで考えてはいけません。
Look what happens at the moment of going for the kote.
もしコテを打ったとき、胴や突きが
Okay, he closes the distance. He comes in for that kote and immediately bringing the left foot. Okay, and look how much further he went for the man. Okay, a lot of times when we're practicing kote men, we tend to do like kind of like a step and then a longer step for the man. But I think that these two steps were kind of equal,
相手もこ
right?
ちらの圧力に押されて後ろに下がるのです。
As a matter of fact, maybe he even did like longer step for the kote and then a little bit of a shorter step for the man.
すかさず面に
Let's
変
watch
化
it one more
する
time.
という意識が大切です。
Well, after this part.
ですから無理に
Look at that push pull, push pull, push pull, push pull.
コテと面はセットで考
Look
え
at the step. Let's see the distance.
もしコテを打ったとき、胴や突きが開けば
I mean, that's a fairly long step, right?
そこを打突しましょう。
And then the second step doesn't look as long as the first one. I'm gonna say that maybe both of them are kind of like equal, and I feel that, and again, it could be different and where you're at. But every time I hear, like in training and stuff like that, I notice that instructors try to say, okay, do a step for kote and then a longer step for men, which again, I think it has to be with the situation, how far the opponent is, did the opponent go back, or did the opponent stay, or is the opponent coming in forward? Again, I guess the best advice I can say for that is like, please practice and learn to attack at a very short distance. Because if you come in for a regular step for the kote, but then the person is coming to you, maybe you're gonna have to do men on the spot. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do if you're not used to that. Great skill to have though. Great skill to have. Alright, Devana men.
出花は相手がまさに打とうと動作を起こした瞬間のことを言います。
Okay, notice the pressure, right? I think there is several ways that you can use to practice the banamen. Ideally, in a, let's say, Shiai scenario or Shinsa scenario, you as the person executing the banamen want to put the pressure to cause a reaction to the opponent. But when you're training, and this is something I learned, I think it was like in a training session when I had in California, you want to train also different in different scenarios and like just different timings, especially when you want to teach it to people that are not really understanding seme yet or understanding how to put pressure in. So you want to make sure that you're always ready to go forward. And if the opponent is coming in first, you want to be in the position where you're not waiting to get engaged. You want to be engaged, and when the opportunity comes, you want to just take the man forward. I think that's even training that, it's a great tool to understanding, that anchoring of the left foot, being ready to go forward, and being able to attack without adjusting yourself. One common, I'm gonna say, mistake that I see people do when when they're getting faced by an opponent coming in is that, they're here, they're ready, their body's ready, but at the moment that the person comes in, they kind of do this to then go. Where you should have that engagement ready, and as soon as the person comes in forward, you should be able to come in and take the waza, right? That's just something that I notice from people that, I hope to get rid of that habit for myself. So hopefully that'll be something that you want to work on as well.
引き出すことといった点がポイントになります。いつでも打てる状態でいるためには足構えが大切です。左足のためを意識しましょう。
So you see here, they're training the Debana Waza
相手を引き出す
by having the person just come in and the other person, the person executing the Debana Waza,
誘うという手も
engaging at that moment.
剣線の強さを
Now they're making a little bit further distance.
のもいいかもしれません。
They come in the distance and he goes in forward for that kote. I mean for that man, sorry. Also, there is a bad habit that I see people having a lot, where and I noticed like in this video, Takenouchi kind of showed that a little bit, that it's sometimes when you're gonna have to do a waza, when you're taking a step forward, people tend to move the left foot first over just directly going forward. I see this a lot, and with myself as well. When doing kirikaeshi, right? I noticed that myself, or I see other people do it. They take a step forward, and then from here, they can just take another step with the left and go forward, or from here, instead of just starting with the waza, they kind of do that. Another one, I guess another bad habit to be mindful of that I noticed as well in kirikaeshi, it's you want to, in kirikaeshi, you want to do one step and then go. So I've seen this, one step and going. So you start raising the hands on that one step and then going, where what you want to do is you want to make sure you come in for that kamae and then engage for that man. As training purpose, right?
出花コテは相手が面に変化する前の面を打とうと竹刀を振り上げようとした瞬間を捉える技です。相手が出てくるのを待って打とうとする人がいますが、出花の機会は本当に一瞬ですので、待っていてはタイミングを逃してしまうでしょう。一本を決めるためには少しでも前に出て攻めてコテを捉えるようにしましょう。逃げながらコテを打っていると注意された人は、体を出す方向と竹刀の方向を一致させるように心がけるといいでしょう。相手の技の起こりは一瞬ですので、出花コテの場合も小さく鋭くコンパクトに打突します。大きく一歩入ると詰まってしまうので注意しましょう。
I think also the banawaza or degote, it's a very risky technique when it comes to when you don't understand how it works. I think this right here is where you want to get the person's kote, right? If you make it, if the shinai gets higher, it becomes riskier, because then you're most likely going to have to hit on an angle in order to get it. Let's see. So right here, he still had the opening, but I think this kote right here, it's a little bit harder to get than the one before. Also, maybe he was holding back. Maybe. Okay, so hikimen. And again, this is something that I feel like we neglect a lot, but this right here, I think is perfect example of what I was talking about last week when it came to Hikiwaza. Subasiriae shouldn't be a push place or a resting place, right? It's kamae with a modified angle of the sword, I think. So here, obviously, the person on the right wants to do the hikiwaza, so they're altering the ability for the person to do a hikiwaza on them and taking advantage of the person trying to recuperate in order to take that hikiwaza, to make that opening. Look at that. So he's not necessarily pushing the opponent. He is making a push on which he's going to use the opponent's own force as well to help him go backwards and immediately take that opening. Okay? This is one of the things that we have to practice it in order to learn how the opening work, because it doesn't work. This technique doesn't work the same with everybody. You have to mix adaptations to it. But the principle is you want to make sure you have good subasiriae and your feet are ready to go. You want to avoid being in an angle, and you want to always make sure that you're facing the opponent and your shinai, and more importantly, your hands are facing the opponent. You want to have your hands out like this. A lot of times I see people kind of like going up, moving up the hands like this, and at this point it becomes a little bit harder to line up the strike. You want to make sure it's regular kamae with the opponent, and if you're gonna go make that opening, you might push, and then as you start going back, you can hit the opponent, but it's crucial to always have your body, your hands, and your shinai line up with your opponent as if you're in kamae, right? If you think about it, if you're in kamae with your shinai out to the side, you're open for the man, you might be open for the kote, and so on. So, very important.
引きコテの場合も引き面の時と同様、つばぜり合いの状態から相手を崩し、隙を作って打ち
For me personally, hikikote is a little bit
相手の右手を
harder
打つため
when it comes creating the right angle to be at to hit. But
相手の手元を
I think also that this is also a very important waza for motodachi to understand how to
相手の手
open
元
up.
を右斜め上に押し、内間を作り、
A lot of times I feel like people get so caught up in the struggle with the subasiriae
体
where
をさばいたら相
I
手
think you should avoid that.
でコテを打つようにしましょう。コテの場合は体を沈ませて打ったり、剣線を立てて手の内が硬くなった状態で打ったりしないように、刃筋を意識して振りましょう。
So again, this is a very basic way to make an opening for the hikikote. There's way many more ways to do in order to do that. So the only way I can say is you gotta practice different ones.
胴を開けさせるようにしなければ打てません。
And sometimes maybe even the basic that he just did for the door, right? Like right now he's pushing up,
状態から相手の手元を上から押し下げて
he's pushing down to make the opponent go up. Sometimes it might not work that way. Sometimes you might push down, the person might like kind of return force down, so the opening is for the man. It's very,
前腕を返して
again, this is something that a lot of practice.
これが引き胴の打ち方
I've
の
seen it too where people tend to put the pressure against the kote of the shinai of the opponent, and as they go up, they kind of push the hands up as well. That could work too, and it's just like a different variation. We could do a day where like we study all those different approaches to open up for hikiwaza. 体当たりは試合をする上でも有効な手段として使われています。例えば面を打った後に体当たりをして相手を崩し、引き面、相手が下がったらそのまま追い込んで Okay,
面を打つ。
notice the way that he's approaching Tayatari, right? He's not coming with the upper body. He's keeping his body in a very much straight position, and he's pushing the opponent back but again, he is solid on the way that he's standing. So he's ready to attack forward or backwards if he needs to with the position that he has. You see, he's making the distance with the shinai, with the hands, saying, okay, get out of my personal space type of thing, right? But he's not coming, it doesn't become a like struggle fight. It's not like a wrestle. And then, obviously, this drill I think is amazing. It's a great drill to do. Men, taitari, men.
体当たりの時の左拳の位置は中段の構えを取った時とおよそ同じ高さにします。
And he's really using the force from the body to he's using the arms to complement the force that came already with the body. Another variation for the Hikiman. I'm gonna say that this video became much more interesting than I thought it was gonna be for today. So I guess like this is going to be the only thing for today. I'm gonna leave the ippons for next week.
つばぜり合いで相手を崩すには腰を入れて腕だけの力で押さないようにしましょう。また相手の圧力に対してただ押し返すのではなく、体を
And this is if you notice the way that they're standing right there. I think this should be the standard or like the Kihon practice for Subaseriai. Not here. So I see a lot of people when they go in Subaseriai, they tense up and they kind of make themselves smaller. You want to have separation between you and the opponent. You want to have freedom to move the sword wherever you need to move it.
相手が押し返した力を利用して内間を作って打つ。相手が押してきた時に右にさばきながら押し返して打つ。上から押し
And I find it a very important thing to practice is that you want to push when you're pushing with your arms, not with your body. You don't want to lose your balance. You don't want to lose your positioning when you're doing that type of push. And these are, different techniques to make different openings. I think that's very interesting, very, very good thing to study. But I think I want to, okay, let's see this one.
こちらが引き技を打った後、相手はすぐさま追いかけてきますので、打たれない間合いを取れるかどうかがポイントになります。打つ前にしっかり崩すことや、打って引いた後はすぐさま対応できる状態に戻すことができているかどうかを確認しましょう。相手から目を離
Look at that anchoring. Again, that's the point that it's key. It's key for a lot of the waza, right? For every waza, I think. Look, he goes back. When he makes a stop, he's anchored in the sense that he is pushing with the left leg to get him to go forward.
例えば、引き小手を打った直後に目線が下を向いている。
Again, this is another drill that it's great to practice. Unfortunately, I guess right now with this whole corona situation, Subaseriai, it's a little bit, Subaseriai and Hikiwaza and stuff like that, maybe a little bit out of the question for the time being. Which makes it a little bit more scary for me because it's already a technique or like an approach in Kendo that kind of gets forgotten on its own, even in normal times. So please, please, please do not neglect the Hikiwaza and the Subaseriai because I think it's very, very important. Okay, hold on, I skipped this a little bit too much. Okay, so this now we enter a different set of waza. So I guess in this video we started very Kihon footwork. Then we did what's it called? Suburi. We did Shikake waza. Now with the Hikiwaza, now he's going to over
相手の
Ojiwaza.
小手技を抜いて打ちます。
Kote no Kimen. Okay, for this type of wazas, I think anticipation it's key, and also distance, understanding the distance, not only your ability to hit the distance, but also the distance that you will see from your opponent. I think for Kote no Kimen, it's important to keep your opponent at a distance where you can anticipate him coming for kote, because men is not an option. Okay, and the reason why I say this is because a lot of times when people approach kote no kimen, they come in with the mind that I am going to do kote no kimen before you start the pressure. Where again in kendo you want to avoid that. You want to just kind of adapt to the moment and adapt to the situation. Come in with an open mind and a blank slate, put the pressure and adjust to the situation. Ideally, that's what we want. I understand that sometimes we approach it a little bit differently. So it's important to understand. You want to, if you want to make an assumption, because technically you're making an assumption, right? You want to make sure that you take away the other options from your opponent. Like make the man either unavailable for him, or make it where it's going to be readable for you to maybe do kaeshi waza or devanamen and so on. I really like this approach, this technique. I feel that a lot of people kind of hold back a lot, waiting for the person to move. Where instead of waiting, you should put the pressure and you should. Okay, a better way, I guess, that I've been explained to, instead of saying waiting, I'm gonna say you're holding back. You're ready to go, but you're holding back because it's not your time to do it. It's not your time to go. But look at that. Like he's not necessarily waiting for the person to move forward. He's already engaged into I'm going to do it. Right? There's no flinching when he goes back. It's not a reaction. He's making him confident, like, come on, let's trade. But oh, I'm not trading with you. I'm actually taking control of the situation in a different way. Ski Suriagamen. Okay, this one I want to break down with you for a second, because I think this is one of the wazas too that people tend to wait instead of putting pressure and hold back, right? Let's see. When the person is coming already in, hold on, let me see if I can get it too. You see, okay, so he starts the forward momentum when the motodachi makes the decision to come in forward. Look, like he's in forward motion as the person's coming forward. He does the suriage and executes the man. Small suriage.
相手が来るスピードを考慮して相手が出てくるその端をすかさずすり上げる気持ちを持つといいでしょう。上下の攻めは面を攻めて小手、小手を攻めて面、 と攻めていくことです。左右の攻めは表を攻めて裏、裏を攻めて表と攻めていくことです。この攻めを使うことでいずれの場合も相手にどちらから攻めて
Okay, I'm going to be honest. My level of Japanese, I think this is I'm understanding some of the stuff that are being mentioned in here. It has to do with seme, but my understanding of Japanese is not up
そのた
there.
めには
But
前
it's
線や
at
手
least
足
it's
の動きで
a very
面
interesting thing just to
全
watch
筋
the different
合わせること
approaches.
が大切です。
Um,
攻めて相
so, but Jan, if you can step up and guide us through this one, that will be awesome. Kakarigeko, welcome to the chat. I like Kakarigeko, so it's a nice name. You're saying that your sensei teaches Ki Suriyage Men before Men Suriyage Men. It seems to help beginners understand the technique before trying Men Suriyage Men, which is pretty hard. So that's actually a very, very good approach, actually. Not only because obviously you're giving a little bit of more contact with the shinai as the person is coming in, right? Because a lot of times when people do men, they tend to a lot of times they try to, like, especially when the person is too eager to hit and challenge the kakarite, they lift the sword a lot, making you miss that suriyage, right? Sometimes they even pull it back. I've seen it happen, right? Like where they pull it back, making you miss the suriyage. So I think taking this approach is actually very, very interesting and very good, because you're teaching that good approach to the suriyage and understanding the motion of suriyage. If you don't mind me asking, what country, state, city you're on, and yeah, that'll be awesome to know. But I think that's a very good approach into teaching. Again, I mentioned before I went to school for music therapy. I worked in the education and psychology field, and one of the things, what's it called? We talked about is, like, successful approximation, and talk about making the task very, very easy for the person, and then build it up to wherever you want it to be. And I think that implemented in Kendo, it's amazing, and this is one way to do it. So yeah, that's awesome.
手を
Okay.
崩して打つことができるようになれば一本になる確率も上がり
Is the stream paused for you guys? Let me know, because okay, I seen it, like it's doing like a thinking thing.
ます。上を攻めて面を意識させると相手の胴や小手が開くことがあります。そういったところで隙を見せる相手はこちらの攻めに対して少し引いたり手元が思わず浮いたりしています。胴を決めるときには思い切って内間に入る大胆さも時には必要です。大胆に入るからこそ胴部位を開けるほど手元を浮かせられます。
I'm always on the type of person that I like to just try different approaches, and I'm gonna say do situational practices, right? Like even though when you already know as a practitioner, right? Like when you're practicing, hold on, what's going on here? Oh, okay. Even though you know already what wasa is coming, it's good to practice. Maybe, okay, today I'm gonna practice what happens if I do this type of semi, right? Like you in kamae, you control over and then hit. Okay, like what happens if let's try different type of semi. Let's try suriyage and then yokomen, or maybe like a little bit of like makiwaza and then kote. Just different types of approaches, just to understand not only how that semi might work, that approach might work, but also adapting to where the target is going to be, so the type of angle you want to shoot your shinai. Shoot is a bad word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like try to launch your shinai whichever way. Also, one thing that I like to practice, I like to take the time to practice. It's when people kind of like do this type of cover and trying to understand that kote, hitting that kote in that upward motion. I think that's a very good practice too, just to get a little bit of diversity in your Kendo vocabulary, I guess you want to say that. But yeah.
相手が動いたと思ったらすぐ打つようにしましょう。担ぎ技などはその一例です。
So, Kakarigeko, I'm gonna call you Kakarigeko just because I didn't see your message before where you said what are your thoughts on that approach, but I think I answered that. I know the stream kind of lagged out for a few frames or something. Tell me if you didn't if I didn't catch if you didn't catch my answer. But again, I really approach that. But yeah, tell me if you didn't catch my answer so I can actually rephrase it and repeat it. And also, if you didn't catch it, I asked what country you're from.
相手の右拳あたり
That
の
would be
剣
awesome to
線
know.
を下げて攻める方法です。こちらの下げた剣線を防ぐために相手も剣線を下げます。この時面と突きに隙ができます。また相手の視野からこちらの剣線が見えにくくなるので、どこから技が出てくるのか判断が難しくなるのです。
This type of practice, like trying out different approaches of approaching that's redundant, the opponent,
この機会を逃さないように打突しましょう。
I think it's amazing because you want to, have a big vocabulary when it comes to approaching and understanding that they might not work with everybody. They might not work the same with everybody. You might need to change few little details like bringing in like the speed. A lot of times when you go faster, that person might react. But sometimes when you go faster, that person might not react, but they will react to the same approach, but with a pause. So yeah, that's something you want to think about, you want to try about. Just different timing, different speeds, and just different motions and so on. Kakareko, you're from Serbia. Hey man, how's it going? Did we practice together? Because I was there last year, and I practiced at 2 dojos. But don't ask me for names and stuff because I'm bad. So yeah, let me know.
出ません。
Let me know if we practice
その
together.
ために相手が剣線を押し返す力を利用して打ちましょう。
Man, I miss that practicing kote and getting that impact.
ない相手は押し返してきます。その瞬間、剣線を上げると同時に相手の剣線を自分の中心から外し、空いたコテを打つのです。もちろん相手もこの攻め方には十分注意。
Let me do a quick little survey between everybody that's here. So again, I mentioned that I started practice with different age groups in this past week, and we're taking it easy and making sure that everybody is healthy and they're taking the breaks they need. But how long would you feel comfortable getting for yourself? I mean, don't make assumptions for anybody else, but for yourself, like how long would you think you feel comfortable getting back into Bogu after pretty much being a year of no kendo? What do you think is a reasonable time for you to take between coming back, getting the rust out when it comes for suburi, footwork, or whatever, to put on full Bogu, and maybe not doing same same level of practice as we were doing before, but yeah, at least getting to the point where doing some kihong, maybe a little bit of jigeko. So yeah. And Kakarieko, yeah, we haven't practiced together. Okay, if you don't mind, like send me a message either to my Instagram or maybe like a private message here. And when I go there, which might be this year, let me know. I mean, I will let you know, and we can probably find dojo practice. Where's your dojo? I was in Belgrade, so I don't know where you might be at.
しているとは思いますが、
So yeah, let me know.
攻め合いに熱中している中で決まるときはあります。攻めるタイミングも重要です。 裏から攻め入って相手の剣線を押すと、相手は中心を取られないように
So-
押し返してきます。
Right here, I want to just take a little pause because I feel like here's where people have that bad habit that I was mentioning about with the left foot. The left foot kind of comes in before the right foot. Hold on,
コ
let's.
テを防御している相手には効果があります。
Okay, wait for the slow motion real quick. Oh, I didn't get the slow motion there. Hold on. Okay, so look at this. A lot of people have this bad habit, and if you have it, please be mindful of this. So he's going to move the right foot first, then he's going to bring in the left foot very close to the right foot and launch from there. A lot of people tend to have one of these two problems. One is they move the left foot closer, so especially when you have a wide kamae. Hold on. Okay, especially when you have a wide kamae, people tend to do this to create that engagement to go with power. Or they move with the right leg, but then the left foot still kind of just goes out like that. If you notice what he's doing, it's slightly different. He's moving and he's engaging. He's creating momentum, yes, but he's engaging the left foot. He's putting the foot down with pressure to go forward before he makes it to this point. Because if he makes it to this point, what's going to happen? If the person is coming, there's really not much he can do in order to move pretty much anywhere, right? But if you're keeping your body here, right, you have the ability to engage quickly and launch if you need to, or go back, or go to the side, go to whichever side, right? I think that's very important to kind of like polish that type of footwork understanding. Hope that makes sense. Oh, that itches.
「居ついたところ」とは、攻められて苦しくなり、心の動きが止まったり、苦し紛れに技を出そうとあれこれ模索するなどして、心も体も動きにくい状況になっていることを指します。相手を居つかせる方法としては、例えばじりじりと相手を攻めて足を止め、剣線を開いた一瞬を面に捉えるなどがあります。小刻みに攻めていくことで、いつ打ってくるのか、
I think understanding different ways of coming in for seme is very important. Not necessarily always just drilling men the same way. I know, especially many dojos we have maybe like 1 hour practice or maybe 1 hour and a half practice. So I know we want to maybe do more. So just go man. So because sometimes we feel that pressure, so we just want to do more, but we end up maybe doing the physical aspect. But I personally think that Kendo has much more than that. It's not just the physical part. You want to also train the mental part, like the attention part, like your brain, all these aspects. And by doing it like that, it kind of becomes mechanic, and you lack that understanding of, okay, what's the reaction of my opponent? What am I doing that's making him move or not move? And I think learning those things, maybe coming in different ways, just like adjusting distance, what distance works for this person, what distance works for this person. It's very important. I think taking the time to just not just be mechanic all the time, it's very important to the progress of your Kendo.
「相手が思わず出てくる状況を作る方法は大きく分けて2つあります。一つは 相手にここがチャンスだと思わせること。もう一つはこちらの攻めがきついので何もできなくなって破れかぶれに打ってこさせることです。
Also, as motodachi, I understand that you want to be competitive with your partner, right? But understand that as a motodachi, we have a role that's different than if I'm going to be competitive with someone doing keiko, right? When we're doing keiko, it's fair game for both sides, right? When you are the motodachi and you're trying to come in for men for the other person to do kaeshido, for example, uh, I feel that a lot of times, and I've been guilty of this too, we try to be tricky, right? Like trying to like, okay, I know he knows I'm going to be hit coming for man, but I don't want to get hit, so let me just change the timing or something like. And I don't think it should be like that. I think it has its own time and place to be competitive in different ways, but you want to understand as a motodachi what is being worked on, you know, because am I working with my partner for him to improve the kaeshido, or am I working with my partner for him to understand how his pressure affects me? Am I being, am I taking advantage to the fact that I know that he's going to do kaeshido, right? Because I think that if I know that my opponent is doing kaeshido in a shiai, I'm going to act differently. I'm going to throw maybe a different type of man that if I knew that he was going to go for the kote or the banamen, right? So we want to always be as honest and what's it called? I guess non-biased is not really the word, but you want to come in uh, understanding what is it that I'm trying to help my partner improve, right? It's not about me how I can get the man regardless that he's going to do kaeshido. I think that's very important for us to kind of like
相手に
get rid
チャ
of
ンス
that
だと
type
思
of
わせるためには
mentality.
剣線を押す力を緩める、面を狙っているように見せて小手を打たせるように仕向けるなどがあります。
That doesn't mean make it easy on your opponent though.
時には剣線の威力を弱めて相手を誘うように工夫してください。
One thing that I want to, like anybody watching this and like watching any video and understanding that that's one of the things that I like to do when watching Kihon practice is that there's no flinching, right? When the person is coming, the person is not flinching or readjusting the position. It's about I am ready and from here this position I'm going. You want to avoid, okay, I'm ready, oh but wait, I'm not ready, I need to do something.
気味に攻め相手を誘います。間が詰まってから胴を打とうとすると出遅れます。相手には思い切って面を打ってもらわないと胴が打てないので、ギリギリまで引きつけて打ち急がないようにしましょう。
When doing kaeshido, I'm gonna stop this for a second because I think this is something important when I see people doing kaeshido. Let's watch this. Oh, hold on. I went too far back. Okay, so I'm gonna say that this it's a little bit of an unorthodox way, the way he's doing kaeshido. But understand this: he is receiving ahead, forward from his body. If you receive here, it's a little bit too late. Okay, I think here it's a little bit different, right? The time is a little bit different because he moved the foot forward first. So he moved the foot forward, then he's receiving the man, and then immediately switching to the kaeshido. There is no, and this is a bad habit that I mean maybe I have it again because I don't practice, but coming in like back and like here, it should be. Let me go main. Hold on. Okay, I think for kaeshido, you want to avoid. Let me go like this. Okay, you want to avoid this, then this, right? You want to make it one motion. So he's ahead on this video that you're seeing. He caught it a little bit behind, right? But notice that after he caught it, he's not pulling back to go around. He's using the left hand to bring the shinai around and return the waza to the do. Okay? Let's watch that. So that way, we can get a better view of that. But that's kind of what I wanted to say. You want to avoid pulling back. Also, there's no fumikomi at this point, right? It's different doing shikake do than it is to do kaeshi do. Because on when you're coming forward, you do fumikomi as you strike. Here, you're extending as you're receiving the shinai, and then you're engaging the hip to hit the do, and bringing the left foot forward. If you notice, let's see a little bit back.
ギリギリまで引きつけて打ち急がないようにしましょう。
You see, it's one motion. Boop. And the use of the left
コテ
hand
の
to
相
go
打ちから
around.
面を打つ場合は、剣線をやや上げ、相手がコテを打てるように誘う必要があります。相手のコテ打ちを打ち消すために、しっかりと踏み込んで打ちましょう。
Quick little annotation to the kote de wana kote men is that not all the times you need to go and hit the kote of the opponent. You can hit the shinai to get out of the way and then go for the men. Because ideally you're aiming to get that ippon with the men. Okay, I think this is the last section I wanted to kind of observe together, and I'm gonna talk about kirikaeshi, just because I feel like this is
切り返しは
one of the more crucial aspects of the interaction between kakarite and motodachi. Okay, first thing I'm gonna say, when he's doing his kirikaeshi, again he's staying on the center line with the hands. He's being continuous. He's having very good kiken taichi. But now, the distance of the sword is being kept by the motodachi, right? The motodachi has a big responsibility when it comes to the subaseriai, the tatari, and the distance on the way back. Notice that they're doing tatari, but the person is not mindlessly going back and bouncing out of, going up to China after the tatari. He's being very very mindful of keeping the distance for the opponent.
繰り返しによって悪い癖を直す効果もあります。気力の鍛錬にも有効です。準備運動程度に捉えず、気を抜
Yeah. One thing that I know that I like when people doing very good kirikaeshi is that when they go back, they get into a solid kamae. Some senseis say to get into a solid kamae in the distance where you don't have to take a step to go, and other ones say it's okay to take one step to then go for the men. But one thing that you want to make sure is that you are engaging that left leg, making sure that you're coming in forward and going into the men. Tobias, you're saying good night. I know it's very late for you, so thank you very much for passing by. I definitely see you next week. And again, if you have any suggestions or anything, please send it my way. I really enjoy the fact that we're spending some time together here. And by the way, I know it's pretty late for a lot of people watching, and I'm really grateful that a lot of people have stayed this long, talking to me and watching Kendo together. And again, this is going to be the last section because I don't want to keep you for the rest of your Sunday. And I know we could talk Kendo forever. I'm going to leave the last part, maybe continue it next week. But I kind of wanted just to not go without talking about kirikaeshi. Because again, I think there's something that is such a crucial exercise and practice. Raising the hands is very important. Kiai is very important. And here is where I see most people's mistake on their way back. They tend to not have the synchronization of hitting and moving the legs. But look look what good kirikashi looks like, right? He's landing the strike at the same time that the left is being pulled.
構え打突足さばき
And a lot of control on the ashisabaki.
剣道に必要な技術を総合
And this pause right here is the pause that I need to make sure that I point out because that's what
柔らかく打つことに
that thing I think is crucial. Look at the step. After he just finishes, he takes one solid step and goes. Okay? It's not that he is raising the hands, he goes and then hits. No. It's one step and goes from it. Very important. I think a lot of us make that mistake when doing kirikaeshi. That we kind of want to take advantage of that momentum to start raising the hands as we go forward. We shouldn't do that. We should stay focused and do solid step and then a solid man. Regardless, I think it's crucial too that we hold back because I know we want to be faster. I know we want to do more, stronger, and whatever. But doing slow kirikaeshi, making sure that it hits where it should hit, aiming for the opponent, not for the shinai, it's crucial and important. So if I have to leave you with one thing is that make sure you take the time to slow things down. I promise you, it will make you faster, it will make you understand the technique better and be healthier and safer when it comes to doing proper technique, not getting injuries and lesions and stuff like that, okay? Again, I want to say thank you very much for everybody that stayed this long, just hearing me ramble and sharing your opinions, sharing all your thoughts. I actually took the time to, as we were going, to write down some ideas that I had for like future videos. So hopefully you enjoy those things. If you haven't checked in my channel, I've been doing a lot of like kendo reviews for like senseis and techniques and stuff like that. Well, not a lot because I only done like 2 so far. I did Ega on the last one and Nishimura the one before. I think I'm gonna do Uchimura on this next one, just to compare Ega and Uchimura on the same relative height and the different styles of kendo they have. So if you haven't, you can go check them out. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to make it to 1,000. I'm so close. I have like 130 more people to go, which is insane that so many people keep following this channel. I'm so grateful. All I wanted is just to be for kendo to be a little bit more well known and that we improve our kendo because that's the only way that kendo is going to get better outside of Japan. If more people do it and we share the stuff that we are learning with other people. So hopefully I can keep making these videos and these streams entertaining. So if you have any suggestions, anything you want to see, anything you would like me to do, please share them with me. I'll be really grateful for that. That being said, all I have to say is like thank you again for passing by. Have a good rest of your weekend and please stay safe. Let's try to get back to kendo as soon as possible. Okay? You guys have a good rest of your weekend and you guys again, I really appreciate you being here. So take care. Oh wait, Jan, okay, you're going to sleep now, so yeah, please take care and I'll see you next week. Again, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. Okay? You guys have a good rest of your day and take care.